cannot believe that the past year has been how it has been. And I'm not talking about COVID here. I'm talking about business. It's been a crazy year to be doing what we've been doing here at Process Driven. So, in this kind of unusual episode of the YouTube channel, I want to go behind the scenes and give you guys a bit of a story of what it's taken us to go from 0 to about 9,000 subscribers here on YouTube in about a year. To make this story a little bit easier to understand, I hope, we're going to be going through 4 major chapters in the story. We're going to start in March 2020, go all the way up to present day in 4 major chunks of time. Each chunk is going to be kind of bookmarked by a major turning point in the story, so hopefully it'll be easy for you to follow along. And as we go through today, if you're enjoying this video, do like it. But if you're not into ClickUp and process and systemization stuff, don't worry about subscribing because this video is a little bit abnormal to what we normally post on the channel. All right, so let's start back in the old days of March 2020. And this is when I really started posting on YouTube seriously. The backstory here is that at that point, I was providing one-on-one ClickUp setup and kind of tech implementation services. It was the right tech for you, helping people set up and systemize a portion of their customer journey. Then COVID hit and we had 2 clients get canceled right away. It wasn't the end of the world. So I was at 100% capacity. It bumped me down to about 60% capacity. And honestly, I was kind of excited about it. I was pretty tired, pretty burnt out. And when we did lose those clients, I was scared about the revenue side of things. I mean, I definitely felt that. But I had enough work to keep me busy, and I decided to use that extra time to create a YouTube channel. And throughout that 4 weeks or so, on top of the client work, which was about half capacity, I produced about 30 YouTube videos just by using Loom and recording quick clips. So let me actually break down exactly what that looks like, and we'll go through each of the categories here on the screen. So in terms of posting strategy during that period of time, which started in March 2020, I had no posting strategy. I was literally just recording things I was going to record for a client. And rather than just sending it to that client, I made it anonymous in some way and posted it on YouTube in addition to sending it to the client. So I was posting some random tutorials and eventually started making some ClickUp tutorials because at the time there was a few people posting, but I respect all the YouTube tutorial creators out there, but I wasn't really satisfied with the tutorials I was finding, and I wanted something better for my clients so that I could actually send it to them. So that's kind of where it all started. When it came to gear and equipment at this point in time, I was using either Loom with a webcam or even my old flip phone to record each video, and they look it, right? Like if you watch this, it's just terrible. I can't even watch them at this point. My tools or equipment at that point was Loom, a Blue Yeti microphone, which we picked up, used. My husband had gotten it for some gaming thing. In terms of filming workflow, there wasn't one, right? I wasn't planning videos. I wasn't scripting videos. I literally would have 20 minutes in between calls. I would turn on the camera and I would walk through some little feature that to me seemed obvious, but someone had just asked about in the previous call. And that's how I very quickly filmed my first 30 videos and booked out my first 3 months of content in just a few weeks. When it came to repurposing workflow, once again, almost nothing. When I created the video, I instantly just scheduled it into the next slot on YouTube. No real plan there. And occasionally I would, mention the link on YouTube if I would remember it. But for the most part, it was just going on YouTube and just sitting there and I would cross my fingers. At this point in time, my revenue per month from YouTube was about $0. And also my indirect revenue from leads coming in from YouTube was also $0. And my team was pretty much me. At the start of this period, I was starting with around 25 subscribers on YouTube because I had made some video a year prior, totally random. But by the end of this chapter, which I would say is about May 2020 when this all started to shift, I was at 242 subscribers. I would call this whole chapter of the YouTube journey kind of like the whim because I had no plan. I didn't even, I had no goals really for YouTube. I thought maybe it could help me get some clients. And I was just kind of throwing things at the wall and seeing what would stick. That all kind of changed in June 2020 when we left the whim period, the whim chapter, and went into the hustle chapter of my YouTube journey. The real shift that happened in June 2020 is that my client load went back to full, right? I had a little bit of a lull because of COVID and I refilled those slots. I scheduled those people to start. And come June, I was again at 100 or 110% capacity on top of filming videos. And this is where it really, I had a choice. I could keep doing videos and it would involve me working weekends and nights to get those out, or I could stop doing videos, focus on the client work and get back to YouTube later. I think the decision to work those evenings, film videos late at night was probably one of the best decisions I have ever made in my life, period. So I would routinely be filming, I would have a full client day of trainings, of consulting, of setup work, and I would finish my workday around 4 or 5 o'clock, and I would be filming from 5 to 9 or so. At this point, I did want to start editing my videos just to up that quality a little bit, and that took a little bit longer. So at this point, videos went from taking 30 minutes or so to create to taking about 2 hours to create per video. And I was still trying to post twice a week, give or take, on top of a full client load, which was really draining. From a posting strategy perspective, I started to finally have one. You see, I'd done one ClickUp tutorial in March 2020, and it had given me a much better result than any of the other videos I'd done, which were little hacks or tutorials for this, that, and the other. And I realized, as I started learning more about YouTube, the reason why was because there was not a lot of competition, and ClickUp was this new and up and coming tool that not many people were covering. And even though the work I was doing was about process design, customer experience mapping, I started to niche on the YouTube channel to be ClickUp for process, because I really wanted to get that ClickUp as the keyword that people would find me for. And I was hoping they would stay for the process, because my process videos, no one was searching for, and they just didn't do very well, even though that was really what I was all about. So during this period of time, I'll be honest and just say it was really hard to stick to filming. It wasn't feeling very creative at this point. It was just exhausting. I was so tired. I really realized something needed to give in this process. And that's really what prompted me to go into that next chapter. But before we talk about that, let's talk about what gear and equipment and workflows were involved in this chapter 2, the hustle period. So in terms of gear and equipment at this point, I had a webcam, a ring light, Loom, Blue Yeti microphone. And the big difference here was that I had all of these things already set up on my desk, which seems so obvious. But like you see right here, is these ring light, which I still use here, I had all of these things just sitting on my desk at all times. So it made it a lot easier to start filming versus before I'd have to set things up on a tripod, get it all out. At this point, I did decide to just leave everything up at all times so it would have less work to just click record, because I needed that efficiency. When it came to the filming workflow, once again, very, very simple, very minimal scripting. I would come up with a topic and that's just about it. Then I would ad lib, and I would do some light editing with Premiere Rush, but nothing crazy, simply because I didn't have the time. And I mean, there was sloppy editing during this period simply because of that. I was editing so late at night at some points that I was, ready to fall asleep mid-edit. And that shows, but honestly, I got it out, so I still consider it a win. When it came to repurposing, this is really where I started to leverage that VA. So I had a VA help me take each video and do some light repurposing. So we would create a blog post with some timestamps in it, and also 1 or 2 social media posts for every single video as I was creating it. It wasn't really systematic, but it was something, and it felt like it was a step in the right direction. When it came to the revenue from YouTube at that point, it was about $0 once again from YouTube, because I still was not monetized. Towards the end of this period, I hit 620 subscribers. So still not enough to get monetized. But the saving grace and what really motivated me through this hustle period is that during this window, I probably made about $10,000 on the back end from consulting engagements I got through YouTube. So using YouTube as a marketing channel where people would see it, they'd like, me or something I was talking about, and then they would book me on consulting on the back end. So $0 from YouTube, about $10,000 on the back end during this period of time, which was great. That was enough to keep me motivated. So things started to shift again for me in 2020 when I hit capacity hard. So before YouTube even really started, I was almost always at capacity throughout the year 2020. So I started raising my prices, continued to get booked out. And as YouTube started to pick up for me, so I jumped to about 1,000 subscribers in September of 2020. So when September 2020 hit, I was receiving a good amount of leads from YouTube that really kind of shocked me. So around that time, I started asking folks, like, would you be interested in working with me in some kind of group format? And there was some fumbles getting there, but eventually the waitlist for what is currently called Clicking Up started. So the idea of working with me in a group format opened me up to a new kind of tier of revenue, but also allowed me to free up some of my time. So I believe the waitlist started in August 2020, and in September 2020, we actually launched membership, which is now called Clicking Up Community. So that was a huge shift and really required me to start shifting the way I think about YouTube, because now all of a sudden I had a content membership as well as free content on YouTube. And I needed to make sure that these two were complementary and not competing with one another. If you want to learn more about the membership launch and kind of hear me talk a little bit about that, you might want to check out this conversation with Jonathan, where he puts me right in the hot seat of asking why I went right to a membership. You can learn more about that there. But during this period of time, my posting strategy started to evolve. So I started to feel a little bit more excited about YouTube. It started to feel more creative and energetic because I was able to start doing it during the work week rather than in the evenings because of my client load lightening and more group work kind of coming into fruition. I was able to get a little bit more time back to actually focus on this. I also introduced theme months at this period in time where each month of the calendar year, I would have a topic I would focus in on YouTube, kind of made the scheduling of content a lot more easy and a lot more intentional, honestly, than what it was previously. The gear and equipment during this period did get a little bit of an upgrade, which was great because I already had, an okay mic in the Yeti. I decided to upgrade my camera gear around this time. So I upgraded to a Sony camera, which you can see here. Links for that are in the description below. I upgraded from using Loom to OBS Studio, which is obvious in hindsight, but it allowed me to get higher quality recordings, and people who were complaining about that in the comments, thank you for that prompt, continued to use the Blue Yeti at this point in time, and again, continued to have that setup available at all times, and kept on using that faithful ring light to provide what little lighting I had. Around this time, I also introduced a laser light behind me, which is just a cheap laser light I found in the basement, and I would just turn off all the lights because our room, the actual room I filmed in, was under construction. So the walls weren't even complete in all the areas, and they weren't painted in most of the areas. So my workaround for having just a really crappy location, it's not nice like this one. It was not a pleasant place to be. That's why I decided to go with a very dark vibe for my YouTube channel, because I simply didn't have anything that I wanted people to see. They didn't need to see the drywall or the spackle bucket. So I would turn off all the lights, put the laser light behind me, blind myself with a ring light in front of the camera. My filming workflow at this point still remained very simple. Premiere Rush. At this point, it wasn't because I didn't know how to use Premiere Pro. It was because I just wanted to keep things simple, and I didn't feel like the extra time in editing would be worth it in the results I would get from YouTube. My repurposing workflow took a slight step up, started sharing a bit more posts per each video, but not any major changes there. When it came to revenue, I did actually get monetized during this period because we jumped from 935 subscribers to 2,770 subscribers during this window of September to December 2020. And the revenue per month averaged out to about $858 per month from YouTube, which is great, and about $50,000 in consulting or back-end things from that side, which again, using YouTube as a marketing channel was pretty effective for growing the consulting while I was still doing it, and also launching that membership, which initially did not make very much, but still it was something, right, from the back end of YouTube. And to be honest, this ad revenue from YouTube is really shocking to me because in my initial budget for 2020, my YouTube ads revenue that I expected to make, it was $5. And I expected it to grow 5% every month, to be $5 and, a few cents and so on. Kind of funny looking back. It was definitely much more than I expected because of the niche that I'm in and the CPM that we get here. Last but not least, we get to chapter 4 of the journey. So this is January 2021 to present. The real shift for me here was, it actually started in December 2020. The software I do a lot of tutorials about was doing a live event. And I was kind of thinking, maybe there's a way I can, make this something that my community can get a part of. And what I decided to do was to do a live recap of their event immediately after it ended. So I attended the conference all day virtually for like 6 hours. And then immediately after, I think 30 minutes, I had a quick break to stuff some food in my mouth. I went live and I recapped the events of the day, trying to be as brutally honest as I could about what was good, what was bad, what could you have learned, what does the vision look like? And first time that I was really bringing my own personality into YouTube. Prior to that, I was very much, hey, I'm Layla, your tutorial gal. Let me explain this to you. And in that video for the first time, I really started to give more of my perspective, which I had wanted to give before, but I didn't feel like it was my place. And in that video, I tried to honestly say, hey, here's what's not working. Here's what is working. And there you go. What I learned from that event is that YouTube for me was much more than a creative outlet, and it actually could become what I would consider it is now, which is more of a platform. And that was really the point in time where I stopped viewing YouTube as this marketing channel and really be more of a a personal branding opportunity, a place to become myself online and to start to share a broader mission or to educate the world in a bigger way. That mindset really started to come around with that initial video back in December. So, fast forward to January 2021, we started this year with 2,770 subscribers, give or take. And by the end of June, we were at 8,930. And at the time of recording this video, we were at 9,000, which is amazing. And I want to talk about what has been going on during this period, which I would call the platform period for us. When it comes to strategy, during this period of time, the creation of YouTube videos became the most important job I had. Now, it's not to say that I was always great about getting everything out on time. There were certainly weeks like this one where I just fell behind. But from a strategy perspective, I started to view YouTube as the lifeblood of the entire business, not only because it was really fulfilling personally, but also because it became our number one driver of sales for the membership, which was now the main way I worked with people. So that was a very big shift for me to go from one-on-one service provider who's overworked, overbooked, undercharging, progressively charging plenty, but still just too much on my plate, to working in this membership model, which has really freed me up to do a lot more and to impact a lot more people. During this period, we've shifted backwards in some ways to move from theme months, which I still enjoy, to instead have more of topic buckets, which is a strategy you can find all over YouTube, where rather than just talking about automations in ClickUp and then how to grow your team and then SOPs like we did previously, throughout this period, we started to shift into viewing everything in buckets. So we would try to evenly spread out throughout each month, a little bit on workflows, a little bit on documentation, a little bit on ClickUp, a little bit on whatever else it might be, a little, miscellaneous interviews, whatever that could be. And we would try to evenly mix them throughout the month. So each month felt consistent and kind of got a little bit for everybody every single month using buckets versus all one month about one topic. And then we don't talk about that topic again for 12 months. During this period, I also relocated. So we sold that house that we were fixing up for a profit, which was awesome. Thank you to the dude who bought that. And then we had an influx of cash and a relocation that really allowed me to reimagine what my workspace would look like. So when we selected the place that we're living in now, this apartment, we literally selected the apartment for the recording capabilities. We wanted to have a space where I could film a dedicated full office like this here. That was actually a priority for us personally, which was really exciting. It was taking the business way more seriously. When it came to equipment, stuck with the Sony camera and the beautiful lens that we have on it, added a microphone, as you can see here, the Shure SM7B. And of course, we pair that with the Cloudlifter and the Scarlett 2 thing to translate it into something our computer will understand. Continued to use OBS Studio, introduced not just the ring light, but also the key light that you are seeing here on the screen here, which is an Elgato key light. Again, the links to all this stuff is in the description. Beyond that, I also introduced a Stream Deck to allow me to switch my screen around on live streams without having to use my mouse. Philips Hue lights behind me, as well as some Elgato strip lights in the background here, as well as an actual kind of set. So like this bookshelf and shelving system I actually picked out just for this spot so that way I would make sure we had something kind of nice in the background. This still needs to get evolved a little bit, but for the temporary situation we're in right now, it's good. And that was kind of a big step up. Now I don't feel like I need to have the whole room be black because there is actually something I wouldn't mind you guys seeing in the background. So having that set has been a huge help, and having all of this equipment just upgrade the quality of everything. Absolutely love it. But this is an important point. The reason I didn't invest in this gear earlier is because, for me at least, I didn't want YouTube to be this money pit. So everything I've spent on YouTube so far has actually been from the revenue I've received from YouTube. I have not gone and invested, business money into it. I have used the AdSense revenue to buy the equipment that I'm buying now, and still, remaining profitable on it. But that has been a nice way to keep my spending in line and kind of celebrate those increases in revenue organically by buying some nicer gear and investing back in the channel. When it came to the filming workflow, I started outlining my videos pretty religiously, following some of the advice I found all over YouTube here. You can watch more about my YouTube scripting video. I'll probably put the link in the description. But I have that workflow kind of worked out and a really good system inside ClickUp to organize it all. I switched from Premiere Rush to Premiere Pro for editing, which was kind of a step up my game in terms of the ability to organize things and to have a stereo microphone, which you could not do in Rush. I also hired a video editor, but it didn't end up actually working out. Hired them for a little bit, and I just didn't like the direction it was going in certain things, so brought that back in-house. But I did experiment with that and likely will go back to that at some point in the future. But that was an exciting moment. When it came to repurposing, we upped our game in a big way and taking repurposing really seriously. So not only does the video then get a blog article, now whenever we produce a video here, it gets a full dedicated blog post written for blogs. So it's not just repurposed, it's actually a meaningful piece of content. It gets a few social media posts. It also gets an email newsletter shout out, one per week, as well as some other things just to make sure that every single piece of content we produce has a lot of airtime and is posted on repeat throughout all of the channels that we have using our social media scheduler. So that has been amazing. Work schedule now, when it comes to YouTube, it's still been hard to squeeze it in some ways because as this has grown, so has other things. So the distraction has been there. But now I'm pretty much always filming during the workday, which is a delight. So the revenue from YouTube has increased from, I think, about 800 some the previous period to during this period, it averaged out to about $2,000 per month, which is awesome. As well as some few small brand deals here and there, which haven't been super meaningful yet. That has been a huge help for YouTube to actually, pay back in some ways for the time that it costs to create all these videos. It's still negative if you're actually charging for my time, but in the long run, it will pay off. The other major thing that is hard to quantify here, which is the amount of revenue that has come from YouTube indirectly. So I talked before about how YouTube led to consulting sales. Well, at this point, YouTube is the number one driver of income for the membership and the online course I sell. So I sell membership teaching you how to systemize your business and an online course showing you how to use the basics of ClickUp. Both of those things are pretty much only marketed by the YouTube channel here and our free Facebook group, which if you want to join, link in the description below. But that's pretty much it. So it's hard to really quantify how much that is at this point because who knows how long people will be with us. And one of the reasons why I cannot imagine a reality where I will stop producing videos on YouTube because it is so meaningful, both creatively now, but also I'm actually getting paid to do it, which is just like unreal. So I'm excited to see where it heads next. But the AdSense revenue, if nothing else, really helps offset the cost of the team. So it's been really nice to be able to bring in that support and step by step, I'm getting out of the stuff when it comes to YouTube that I am not good at. And I do imagine in the future, we're going to bring on a designer and a video editor to kind of get me out of those pieces as well. Because right now, the thumbnails you see and the really poor editing that you see, that is all my handiwork. And I recognize I need to get out of there. In conclusion, that has been pretty much the last year and change of life. So looking forward to what's coming next, for those of you who have been following the channel for a while and you want to see where we're heading, come this fall, thanks to some of the hiring we're doing, I'm going to have even more time free, which is the form of freedom I'm most excited about. So we're going to see more expansions to the course and curriculum side of things, as well as a continued effort to be a little bit more creative here on the YouTube channel, and especially in our Facebook group, planning some exclusive content for that free Facebook group. You guys will be the first to know when it comes out. We're continuing to explore different ways to thematically tie content together. That's the strategy I'm exploring right now, about having these series of content that kind of build upon each other. And most importantly, around this year, I'm hoping to kind of go full circle in our topics to go from being the process person who pivoted to ClickUp because that's what showed up in search, to hopefully being able to incorporate some more true process conversations to change the way small businesses think about SOPs, standard operating procedures, business systems, and all that stuff that we generally think of as boring. I want to try to change that conversation. So I want to incorporate that kind of full picture into the YouTube channel to be a little bit more helpful to all of you and just a little bit more rewarding for myself to create, because one can only do so many tutorials about here, click here. I love doing those, but there's a lot more promise than telling people where to click inside a software. This is the part in the video where I'm supposed to ask you to subscribe, but as I said at the beginning, this video is kind of abnormal. So if you're here for YouTube growth tips, I don't have any. This is just my story, and don't bother subscribing because you won't like the rest of the stuff on the channel. But for those of you who have been along with me throughout this whole journey, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If I could subscribe back to you, I would. I really appreciate your help getting us this far, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Until next time, I'm going to end it with a very fitting ending for this kind of conversation, and I remind you all to enjoy the process.